want something nice to eat, but I also know I have a lot of food here.
So I gotta be totally honest with you. I don't really feel like writing today. So, just been watching YouTube videos and not even pretending to be educational. Like, I was just watching YouTube videos of horror movie recaps. It's been like my thing. I think I have like a new little YouTube obsession every week. And then I just watch the hell out of those like videos for 5, 6, 7 days, really intensely. And then I move on. So I'm trying NaNoWriMo for the first time this year. Like, always watch NaNoWriMo participants with a little bit of fascination, like, oh man, that seems really intense. It's kind of cool that everyone chooses to do it at the same time of year, so you kind of have the feeling that you're not in it alone and other people are kind of suffering along with you. You know, doing 1,600 to 2,000 words a day is just insane. And I like the idea of like getting over your fear of output to just get whatever's in your head onto the page. But I've never like actually participated, and mostly because I've never, this is the first year that I've ever like had a novel idea. I've always been a short story guy. So it's been kind of cool, like kind of trying to figure out how to adapt NaNoWriMo for short stories. I found an approach on the internet that I really like, where I set my goal, instead of a word count goal, I set a goal of like a short story or 2 short stories per week, which I guess would ultimately come out to like the same word count more or less. You'd end up with 4 to 8 short stories in a month, which is like a huge output. That's not a small amount of short stories. So pretty ambitious. I'm gonna try it. It's the first week of November, end of the first week of November, and I have like kind of half a short story done, so I really got to get my butt in gear if I'm gonna get 2 stories done. But like 1 story a week, that's like pretty ambitious. I would be satisfied with that. So I have a day job where I also write, so I come home and I'm just like exhausted because lately the work has been super, super demanding, and which has been fun. It's cool. It's like cool to have a demanding job that you still enjoy doing. It's a different story when it's demanding and you hate it, but like I actually really enjoy doing what I do. So trade-off though is that I come home and I'm super exhausted. It's just hard to write when you've already been writing all day. Sorry, is this like interrupting your homework?
Not at all.
Really? As I have this demanding day job and a really demanding like writing project at home that's deadline based, it's got me thinking about like self-care for writers. It's got me thinking about ways of preserving your creativity under really high pressure circumstances. And I was just sort of thinking about like, what are the practices that I do to keep me fed and creative without burning myself out and without getting myself too worked up so that I can't produce. You know, like today. And I think one of the most important things I do is I read. I read a lot. Reading for me is like recharging. I think a lot of people will talk about, you know, kind of diving into media consumption as a way of relaxing, which is totally valid. Like I'm not, you know, like watching a movie or sitting down to watch some TV or YouTube videos is fine, obviously. Like I love watching YouTube videos. If I really want to make sure that I'm stoking my creativity, the really important thing for me to do is to read, because reading is not consuming. When you're reading, you're finishing what the author has created, because the author has an image in their mind, has a scenario, has a story, they put it into words, and then you receive those words and then you rebuild the story in your mind. So in some sense, reading is less like consuming, where you're just receiving it. It's more like constructing. You're receiving it and you're reassembling it in your head. And that act of finishing the work, the act of getting into your head and constructing this image or this idea that the author put down in words, that's really what makes reading so good for you. That's why people encourage you to read. It's why reading has been shown to improve your cognitive skills and your ability to reason and to focus, because the act of translating words into images helps us create images and translate them into words, right? It works both ways. At least I think so. It works for me. And so like I read fiction, like right now I'm reading The Shining by Stephen King. I'm also reading The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. I'm also reading some short stories by Ramsey Campbell? Yeah, Ramsey Campbell and Ray Bradbury. I think reading is great because you're not consuming, you're sort of exercising through it. And it's still super fun. Like, find something you enjoy reading. Like, you don't have to read like a Russian novel. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be demanding. It just has to be reading. Something else that I find is really important, especially during NaNoWriMo, is like sleeping. Most of us have day jobs. Most of us don't have a lot of time to ourselves, right? We spend 8 hours a day doing whatever work we're doing. For the most part, we have jobs that don't allow us to write while we're on the job. You know, some of us even have commutes, which like eats up an hour, 2 hours of our time in a day. We get home, we have to make dinner, we have to do chores, we take care of our spouses or our kids, and then you also just like kind of want to veg for a little bit. And so by the time you're like, okay, cool, I'm ready to write, it's like 8, 9 o'clock, and unless you're an incredibly fast writer, it's gonna take you a few hours to get through 1,600 words. And the point for NaNoWriMo, of course, is to do it quickly, but even then, like, as you're thinking through what you're writing, it's gonna, as you're thinking through what you're writing, it's still gonna take you some time. A lot of times when there's a choice between finishing your goal for the day, finishing your NaNoWriMo, like, marker and getting that hit of dopamine and accomplishment, like, most people will choose to eat into their sleep time. But that's terrible because you're really gonna start feeling it. You know, you do that on a Monday, on a Tuesday, you're gonna start feeling it by Wednesday, you're gonna start feeling it by Thursday. At least I do. If I stay up late on a Monday night, that ruins my whole week. That makes me sound like I'm 90, but it's true. It's just like I need to have that rhythm and that routine in order to keep myself going at a sustainable pace. One of my favorite jobs, it didn't pay me a whole lot. So I used to be a test proctor for placement tests. It was a super fun job because my only job was to make sure nobody was cheating, right? Which literally just meant I would like make sure they emptied their pockets before they entered the testing room, and then I would just sit there. You know, and like technically speaking, I wasn't allowed to be doing anything but watching them, but I would like have my notebook out, or I'd be like writing on like Google Docs or whatever. I'd be like creating ideas. And I would try not to get too much into the zone, so I didn't do a whole lot of drafting, but it was cool because I could do all my prep work there, and then when I get home, I could actually like start writing. That was a great job. If you have a job like that, dude, it's the best. You know, honestly, maybe one of the best jobs ever could be security guard. If you're a writer, that could be one of the best gigs you could get. That might be it for me. Is just sleep and reading. Sleep and reading is where it's at. Also, having an organized workspace. I don't think that helps my writing be any better. I think that maybe it's just a way for me to procrastinate, but you know, it's a form of procrastination that at least feels productive. So clean up your desk. It'll help you delay the inevitable for a few more minutes. I haven't tried this, but smoking a pipe, I feel like channeling John Steinbeck. You know, maybe that could help. Who knows? You know, anything to get the job done, right?